Hello and welcome. We're going to talk about Mark Millar here because he's kind of spitting some fire. So before we get into that, I got to tell you, I'm not the biggest Mark Millar fan in the world. He's got a couple of things that I really enjoyed. Superman Red Sun is one of my favorite Superman stories. Absolutely thumbs up. I remember what he did on The Authority fondly. I was also a much edgier person when I read it, so I don't know if that would still hold up. I got a couple issues in boxes somewhere. Maybe I should dig those out at some point. And then I remember Civil War. I actually enjoyed Civil War and that whole era of Marvel pretty well. But a lot of the other stuff he's done in comics, I haven't liked that much. Kick Ass was a little too edgy for me. I found Wanted completely mediocre. I don't remember Hit Girl at all. I know I've read it, or at least part of it. I think the most recent Mark Millar thing I read, didn't he do Space Bandits like 2, 3 years ago? And I think I got an issue of that for free out of the 50 cent bin or something. And I might have a review of it, but it was like the most generic sci-fi thing I've ever read. So anyway, that's where I'm coming from. I'm not a Mark Millar super fan, and I'm not a Mark Millar hater. He's got some stuff I like, some stuff I don't like, and I think I kind of enjoy a lot of the stuff he works on more in movie format because I thought Wanted was actually a pretty fun popcorn flick, and I thought Kick-Ass was a pretty fun movie. There you go. Um, so, having said all that, what's going on? A couple days ago, Mark Millar had Glenn, this guy who we've talked about before. We talked about his concerns, his complaints, that sort of thing. He had him on a video, on a stream, to chat, a little interview, like, hey man, what's going on? How do you feel about blah? Well, Mark, this is how I feel about blah. Like, it was just a chat. They had a good chat. And since then, Mark Millar is under fire. Now, the problem with the people who are attacking Mark Millar is Mark Millar's big. Mark Millar's got money. Mark Millar has contacts in the entertainment industry who are going to look at this stuff and just laugh. You know, he's got the big Netflix deal. I don't know what the terms of that are. I think it's still active. But he's got Netflix money. He's got like 10 movie deal money. Dude's got the money to just be like, bleep you. All right? And his whole Twitter feed is full of stuff that if you said this a couple years ago would have been controversial. It's absolutely wild. Like, let's start off with this one here, where he's like, "Hey, you people who are attacking me," and he's calling them this phrase right here, which I'm not going to repeat. It's his words, not mine. Some genuine career advice for any wannabe blahs. A huge part of freelance life is your peers, editors wanting to work with you. Everyone just wants to enjoy their job and have fun. If you're toxic, nobody wants to touch you. You're absolutely not going to get writer X's job on Batman if you spend 6 months harassing him into suicide. You'll only be remembered by his editor and his peers as someone who tried to bankrupt their pal, and they will never be there for you. It's if you go back in time, a couple years ago, people were talking about whisper networks and comics, all that kind of stuff. It's gossip. It's career assassination. Like that stuff is out there. It's part of the discussion. A lot of it happens behind the scenes, and then after it happens behind the scenes enough, it comes out in the open. There are a lot of people saying stuff about Mark Millar that's frankly completely preposterous. Like Mark Millar is a bad guy from World War II. That's preposterous. That's ridiculous. It's a complete untruth. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. People like aiming those arrows at Mark Millar. Well, of course, Mark Millar platformed this guy. He's a bad guy from World War II. Oh, here's Mark Millar attacking Group X when there's no comments about Group X at all in anything he said. It's absolutely wild. It's a lot of fabrications. And Mark Millar isn't just taking it. A lot of people who are not as financially secure as him would just take it. He's like, yo, you want to party? Let's go. Now, I don't know if this is going to keep up. I don't know how this is going to play out. You can see I don't even follow him on Twitter, man. I just see that everybody's retweeting this stuff onto my feed, and so I'm kind of following along with it as it's happening because of that. I don't know what Dave J. Cummings said here, but this is something we've also talked about here. Like, he's just spitting fire, man. There's just all sorts of stuff he's saying, and it's like, yeah, he's kind of right. Like, I've said a lot of this stuff too. In fact, we were I think it was on the new Comic Book Day stream, looking at these sales, and while my estimate was a little wrong, whatever month in 2018 I picked, the number one manga on its own did not outsell the entire American comic book industry in terms of units, but it came pretty darn close. It came pretty darn close, dude. So yeah, manga sells. Manga's outselling the big two. Manga's outselling indie comics. Manga is just butchering, like one or two manga volumes, just butchers the entire American comic book industry. Now, manga is structured inherently differently. You know, it's got Shonen Jump. It's still focused around anthology periodicals instead of single topic periodicals, but it's not that different. And one of the things there that still works for manga is there is a feedback mechanism. If customers don't like story X, the editors stop running it. And the artist or writer, or if it's the same person, the mangaka, immediately knows, crap, my story ain't selling, bro, and stops doing what they're doing and changes it. Which leads into the next point because he's responding to James D. Lee, who I don't know. The issue is as long as Marvel and DC get their money from Disney and WB, they don't care. Yeah, they don't care because Marvel and DC are these tiny little like seeds inside these gigantic mega corporations. Every now and then something sprouts out, becomes a good idea, and then they can sell it to the rest of the company, who then make a toy line, make a movie, make a TV show, make a cartoon, make a video game, all that kind of stuff. Look at like Miss Marvel for a good example of that. Miss Marvel had like a pretty well respected first year or two of comics. Everybody kind of liked it. A couple years later, it gets adopted, turns into a Disney streaming show. She makes an appearance in a movie. There's toys, you know, all that kind of stuff. And the problem there is they didn't keep up with the goodness of it. The things that people liked did not keep being the things people liked, and so it kind of fell off. The comic isn't as good, or her comic appearances aren't as good as it was. They even did that event earlier this year where she died, and then she immediately came right back to life like 2 months later because who cares? But he's just talking about all these kinds of things. And a lot of these topics that he's talking about here were completely taboo from a mainstream comic book professional's perspective. Several people have been kicked out of the industry because they've made comments like this. And it's invigorating to see somebody saying it, somebody who's got the mojo to say it and not get destroyed. It's wild. It's a train ride. And it's fun to see somebody with some brand recognition say some of the same things I'm saying. So I don't know where this is going. I don't know how this is going to end up, but I'm going to keep watching it and just kind of enjoy the show, you know? I guess it kind of comes down to can the comic book industry be saved? And I think when you think about it, the industry's been in a really bad place in the past multiple times. DC, late 70s, kind of went down in flames, and then they had a great 1980s. Marvel went bankrupt. Joe Quesada, as much crap as I give him for one more day, he revitalized Marvel, brought it out of the garbage bin that it had willingly leaped into. It was a flaming garbage bin full of diarrhea, and Marvel was just like, let's go. Let's jump into that. And they did. So can things be salvaged? I think so. I think he thinks so. And let's watch the show and see what kind of interesting news comes out of this, see what kind of interesting books people are working on, and let's share what we love as part of that. Because if you're not sharing what you love, nobody's going to know about it. So you have to take that initiative. You have to tell people about the things you love. Anyway, you all take care of yourselves. You have a great one. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I sure hope to see you again next time. Until then, bye-bye. Whee! Yeah, I don't know why I did that. I'm feeling... Look, it's late at night, okay? Bye-bye.